An update on Rugby 24 was released overnight, and whilst it's not great news for the title overall in terms of us playing while the Rugby World Cup is on, we've learned a little bit of information, and we also have a firm release date coming our way. So let's take a look at what they announced and what has been said by Big Ant and Nacon, and try to dissect it a little bit as to what we've got to look forward to when the game actually does release. What is going on, everyone, and welcome back along to your home of rugby and a little bit of gaming news that's been too few and far between in regards to the release of Rugby 24. Today we've got a little bit of information about what we can look forward to, and while sadly within a week of actual initial release date, the game has been delayed, so it won't be coming out on the 7th of September like initially announced that it would be. So there's going to be no big new rugby game for the Rugby World Cup, which is a massive shame, because if there's any spotlight, if there's any attention, and if there's any focus on rugby, it's going to be over the next 2 months, and we're not going to have that marquee game to get in behind for our team as well. Despite that, however, there is a lot of information that we can take from this announcement from Big Ant and Nacon. So let's have a look at it now. You can see this is what they released here on social media about Rugby 24. So first things first, they say at the top, ever since we began developing the game Rugby 24, our goal has been to create the best simulation and most complete game possible. The team has been working hard to adjust the gameplay, represent the sport as accurately as possible, and integrate all the official licensed teams, which will include over 130 countries and 15 leagues. We will come back to that because I want to dissect that just a little bit more as to what we can expect from the game when it comes to competition licenses. They continue on with the massive expansion and content. The development of the game has taken more time than we originally planned, and we have also had difficulty gaining access to some of the top teams' players to capture 3D photos or photogrammetry prior to the Rugby World Cup. So all that really is player likeness, face scanning, stuff like that. That's what they've struggled to really get a hold of. How much of that is can't get that and it's just a reason to try and develop more into this game? I find it difficult. The expansion and content a bit hard to believe, and the fact that the game's just not ready. It just has been a bit too ambitious for them to plug it forward for the Rugby World Cup when it just wasn't enough time to get the job done. Sadly though, we have to look forward to this next point. As we want to bring the most authentic and complete rugby game to date, we have taken a difficult decision to push back the Rugby 24 release date to the 30th of January 2024 on the eve of the Six Nations tournament. This extra time will also aid development and allow us to further enhance gameplay. So there's 2 big points to put from that there. First, of course, the release date. We've actually got an official release date of the 30th of January 2024 to look forward to. That's good. Second one is the game is releasing on the eve of the Six Nations. Now, that cues back to what we were talking about earlier about the 15 leagues. So they go hand in hand. You can count one of your 15 leagues to be the Six Nations. Continuing on, while it is truly heartbreaking to miss the Rugby World Cup, we are convinced that this is the right decision, one that will enable you to experience your passion in a great game. Thank you for your understanding and patience and support. See you soon with more information about Rugby 24, the Rugby 24 team. So, there's a lot of positives, there's a few negatives to take from this, mainly missing that major spotlight of the Rugby World Cup. Yes, your core fans, they're going to buy this whether you release the game in January, March, September, April, June, it doesn't matter. These guys are going to buy your game no matter what. They're your hardcore rugby fans, your rugby gamers that follow this and the track of its production from the start. They're going to buy the game no matter when you release it. What you are going to miss out on is that influx of those fair weather fans or those Rugby World Cup watching fans that whilst watching the games would like to have a game to play alongside it. Just that impact you get when you're seeing Portugal run out for your country, for the Portuguese people, for the Uruguayan people, for the Namibians, for all those sorts of teams. This is really what gets them going. And to have a great game at that same time would have been a huge boost to the production and the sales ability of this game. For the rest of us though, me, you, and a lot of people watching this video, we're going to buy this game no matter when it comes out. So the release date, although it is a bit annoying to miss out on that World Cup spotlight, it's still going to be hopefully a decent rugby game. They're putting a lot of work into this, and you know Big Ant generally do make a decent sort of product. So we can only hope, continue to hope, that not only we'll get more information as time goes on, but we'll also get a lot more to see about this game throughout the end of this year, and of course into January next year as well. But the other main thing to take out of this is that first paragraph where it talks about 130 countries and 15 leagues. Now the 130 countries is going to be, well, countries from the very, very top to the very, very, very bottom. Now remember, only 20 countries progress to the Rugby World Cup. So you're talking 130 countries? That is a lot of countries that most people would have never, ever seen or possibly know that they play rugby. The 15 leagues, however, is a much more interesting number to go with. And when you break it down, which we've been trying to do over the day, and especially when we were on stream this morning, we had a look at what possible countries and competitions could be included in this game. When you break it down to 15 competitions, you're looking at, obviously, the Six Nations. That's the main one, and the Rugby World Cup will be your second. The Rugby Championship will go alongside that as that sort of premier hemisphere competition. Your top leagues from around the world of clubs, Super Rugby, the English Premiership, the top 14 in France, and the URC through Scotland and Wales, etc. in those leagues, and of course the South African sides as well. So that gives you, what, 7 competitions altogether. You've also got to remember, with the Rugby Championship, you're possibly, likely, going to also chuck in the Bledisloe Cup. That gives you 8 of your competitions straight away. Of course, the European Champions Cup and the Challenge Cup will have to go into that mix, which will give you 10, and then you've got other competitions like the Pro D2, the second division in France, the Currie Cup, the New Zealand NPC, whatever they're calling it, the Mitre 10 Cup, the ITM Cup, the Bunnings NPC. It changes names more than most people change their socks. The MLR in America is another one, as well as the Japan Rugby League 1 competition as well. That gives you a grand total of 15 straight away. Then there's also that possibility of teams like the Championship in England, the lower level down from the Premiership, and of course you've got Super Rugby Americas as well, which is also in that mix of the next tiers down. 15 seems like an awful lot, but when you break it up like that, give you the Northern Hemisphere, the South, international and club competitions, it doesn't last as long as you may think. So not only will we have the top international teams, we'll have their players, which will translate down to their club sides as well. So all in all, we can hope and wish to see the best leagues, the best competitions, the best players, but most importantly, will we see that continued on? Will we see throughout the year 2025? Will there be updates? Will there be changes to competitions, to teams, to players more than anything? We've seen Super Rugby change a lot over the last 5 or 6 years, and so much so with the URC as well. Name changes, team changes, personnel changes are plenty. So it's always good to not only have the leagues initially, but then to keep them updated while this license is still active is paramount to keeping the game at its top level for a number of years. And also going along with that, a lot of things we don't know. Career modes. We like Be a Pro in Rugby Challenge, don't we? We also like C7s, stuff like that. A women's game has already been said to have not been included in this, which remains of Rugby Challenge 4, the only title to include women's rugby. There's a lot of game mode options where the career modes has players appreciation and depreciation, stuff like that is still to be announced. So there's a lot of water to still go under this Rugby 24. Is it good? Is it not good bridge before we actually see the game? But we've got some news, and the news is better than nothing. We know the story, we know our release date, and now we can look forward to January for bated breath of Rugby 24. What do you think about the game? Is this good news, bad news? Is it going to be good? Is it going to be bad? Are you happy? Are you unhappy? Are you hopeful? Or are you completely lost of all hope that rugby will ever have a good game to play? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and thank you for tuning in. Thanks for having your say, and of course I'll see you next time for plenty more on your home of rugby. Until then though, take care.